Live. What's up, world?
Hey,
It's your boy. Man, you ain't supposed to say that yet. Let me do me. You say your hey after I finish, all right? So let's restart. What's up, world? You know I'm not cutting this out. You know that. It's your boy Tyrone Morgan. I'm here with you to bring you another episode of the Soul Rehab Podcast. And today we have a lot of guests. And all of them women. So that means I get to do and say what I want today. And we are recording, so they can't touch me through the screen. Anyway, today we're having a podcast, and we are going to be talking about teaching today. I think teaching is a very overlooked profession, very, very underpaid profession. They have an impact on the future of this United States and the world, and they are much overlooked. But today we want to get to the soul of a teacher, but in the mindset behind teaching. So today we're going to start off. We're going to let you introduce yourself because I just don't feel like doing it today. So we're going to start with Ellen because she's the one that's closest to me on my screen.
Oh my goodness. Hey everyone, my name's Ellen. This is my second year of teaching. I teach at E.B. Frank Middle School. And I teach 8th grade math.
hi, I'm Danica. I teach 8th grade math at E.B. Frank Middle School. I'm going to my second year of teaching as well.
Hello, my name is LaTanya. I have been teaching for 9 years. I work with students with special needs. I've taught K-5, and now I'm teaching 6 through 8. I've also taught 9th grade as well.
Hello, I'm Davita. This is my 5th year teaching. I currently teach at LaGrange Elementary. This is my 5th year teaching public schools, but I came from a background of DHHS, where I was also in the education department there. So roughly I have about 20 plus years.
Okay.
And I am Frances Bryant. I've been teaching probably for in some form for about 20 years. And we're going to kick it off. Anybody
Hold
else
on, we forgot one person. We forgot our sister. She's been in hiatus. We're getting ready to bring her back whenever she feels like it. But we want to send a shout out to the fervent servant, Miss Anisha Dawson. We love you, sis, and we can't wait to get you back on the podcast. So now, what's the reason? You can go.
Amen. This is something, school is getting ready to kick off in August, and this is something I'm very passionate about, is the field of education. And everyone up here, I admire the way their teaching style is and the relationship that they have with students. And I just thought it would be fitting for us to do something to talk to parents and to the community about education. So the first thing is I would like to kick it off with asking each one of you, what is your education philosophy? What do you believe in?
I started off. Oh, go ahead, Ellen. That's fine.
With last August being my first year, I thought I was going to come in and teach. They won't listen to me. It did not go like that. I had to establish a relationship with my students for them to trust me to be their teacher. And that consists of me like coming in and eating breakfast with them. I may come in with some cereal, some Hot Pockets, pizza roll. And they're like, Ms. Dawson, you eat that kind of stuff? I'm like, yeah, I'm still human. It took me to know when one of my students was just not themselves them days, a particular day, and I take them outside, hey, what's going on with you? And that created a relationship where they trust me as not only their teacher, but as a friend, as a counselor. So my philosophy as a teacher, you play many roles. Depends on the day.
Amen. I so agree. Tanya, you were going to?
Yes. So my philosophy as a teacher, is pretty much, I have 3 kids, so I feel like I've been teaching for a while now. But it's mainly just to believe in the student. You have to challenge your student. Don't think anything is too much, because for me, I do work with students with special needs. So a lot of times we don't expect them to grow in certain areas. We kind of expect them to be stagnated. Oh, where they're behind. So, we just expect them to stay behind. But that's not true. You should expose them to the regular curriculum just as much as you do um, the extended curriculum, or whatever particular curriculum that they're working on. But my philosophy is that all students can learn with the right help, with the right coaching, with the right assignments, you know. And just to pick you off back what Ellen said, my main goal as an educator is to get to know the students and their families. One thing I've learned teaching over the years, if you get to know the student, I mean, we can get to know the student, but it's not just the student. Because when you're talking about the whole student, you got to get to know their family, their siblings, grandparents, parents, what friends they hang out with, because that's when you can really relate to the student. Just saying, oh, I know this student, oh, I know she likes this or he likes this. Okay, well, what about that day that they're down and they don't want this and they don't want that? It may be that they're so close with their brother or their mom, like, well, hey, you want to call your mom? You want to talk to your brother today? It just depends on the student. So I really try to get to know my students as well as get to know their parents or family members, any adult that's involved in them, even siblings. That's just my goal as an educator. And my philosophy is, again, every student can learn with the right skill set that you have to bring to the table. Just get to know what it is they can do, challenge them a little bit. Something's going to be hard, but just continue to encourage them to keep trying, because nothing comes easy. We didn't always get everything the first time. And I like to tell my students, okay, it's okay. If we get it wrong, we're going to correct it. It's just that simple. You may have gotten it wrong on the test or the quiz or just a basic assignment, but we're going to correct it. So you're going to know how to do it the next time.
Very good.
Mm-hmm. That's good, Tony.
Good. Yeah. I like that.
Basically picking back off of everybody else, I agree with Ms. Beth. Every student is going to learn, and every student will learn in my class. I remember my high school teacher, she had a saying that every student has a voice, and their voice is valid. And that stuck with me all through college, even through school. Like, every student will have a voice, and their voice is valid. You might not agree with what they have to say or what they have to do, but that's how they feel in that moment. And so that's what I got to say.
Okay, and to what you say? Go ahead, Mom. And to back up everybody else, I truly believe that you do have to have a relationship with your students, not only with the students but with the family. And in that relationship, you do have to make sure that you maintain good communication. And I always say communication is essential between families, students, and teachers, because that is what makes everything flow. And I always tell my students, you got to be better. You have an opportunity each day to be better than you were the day before. And, I believe that each student can do what they can do in their own way, and they can shine. And it's all about them shining in their own light. And I tell them, you can't compare yourself to somebody else, because your best is not someone else's best. So, and that's something that I've always told my students, do your best. Make sure you can do your best. And I always tell them, you can't eat a whole cake in one bite. So take your time. You got to take piece by piece by piece to get what you need so that you can learn.
That's good. You expect me to say something? Because I ain't. Next question.
Come on now. Very good. I love those.
No, I'm being
educational philosophy.
I'm being funny, but I do got something to say.
Yes.
Okay. So and listening to all of y'all, there's some stuff that I found that
have anything you want to add before I go to the next?
Yeah. I'm getting ready to say it. You can't. Are you behind? I mean, are you lagging? Okay. I got something to say. So that was, y'all said a couple things that stuck out to me because I'm taking note. So the one and I want to make sure because it kind of helps mobile a philosophy that even if it's not just students, it's teaching in general. So y'all said get to know your students and family. Believe in your students.
Mm-hmm.
Every student can learn based on that student's potential. Every student has a voice, and that voice is valid. Maintain good communication and do your best and not somebody else's best.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear all that, that really wraps it teaching up in a nutshell. And that's why I think teaching is one of the greatest professions that you can be in, because if you can do all them things and maintain your sanity in the class, you're an awesome person. So I just want to give y'all a hand clap.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Some days it's hard.
Yes, it is.
No doubt.
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
yes.
Yes, it is. To go those educational philosophies were just beautiful. And as time goes, I think 20 years ago I had one educational philosophy, and today it has changed. So it's constantly changing, and we're adding to it. One thing I wanted to say, since we're talking about the many hats that we wear as teachers or educators, many people believe that we work from 8 to 3. Would anybody like to expound on that?
You sure don't.
That we work for what?
From 8 to 3.
No.
Oh
We
yes,
get off
let's
at
expand.
3 o'clock.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about it. Okay? So,
If I can punch in,
if we have any teachers, anybody in education, don't have to be a teacher, it could be administrator, that works from 8 to 3, please let me know where you are, because I want to come there.
Me
Okay.
too.
But no, as an educator, we do not work 8 to 3. I feel like I work around the clock. And I say that because, there are times, you get home, students may call you, parents may call you, you may be working on lesson plans, you may be working on an activity, you may be gathering some materials together, you could be grading papers. And yes, we do get a planning period at our school. I receive an hour of planning, most every day. But during that planning, you're always doing something. It could be counseling. It could be somebody's having, a meltdown. It could be somebody struggling with working out a particular skill that you're trying to teach. And they may say, well, Miss Bess, can you please help me with this? So now you're working one-on-one during your planning to where, and it's not just my students, because they're during my planning, my students are out of the classroom. It could be other students that come to you that's in the school. And so as a teacher, I'm going to do everything I can to help any student. If I have a coworker that I may need a mentor, no, I'm not a mentor by chosen from the school system, but I do mentor other educators because I've had people to help me. So any teacher that I can help, I'm willing to help. So no, it does not start at 8 and it does not stop at 3. Trust me. I've waken up at 2 o'clock in the morning and send out emails. My principal and assistant principal can definitely attest to that. And all those that I've had in the past. That's just who I am as a teacher. If I feel like I forgot something and I think about it right now, I'm like, oh, let me go ahead and, do this right now, or go ahead and grade these papers, or go ahead and gather these materials together, so when I get to school all I have to do is print them off, or I may be up sending it to the printer, although it's not going to print until I get to school and connect to the actual printer. So it's just a lot of things that we do, thinking about the students. If they had a rough day, or if you had to address a inappropriate behavior that particular day, you may be going home, you debrief at school, you talk about it, you reflect on what happened that day. I do. I reflect on what happened. Like if today is Monday, when I get home Monday afternoon, I may be reflecting on what I did. What could I have done better? If I feel like a student didn't grasp something, okay, what can I do? And Google is my friend. I'll Google something right now to try a new activity, or maybe I can teach them this way. I mean, I have kids working out the same math problem like 5 different ways, because it just depends on the student, So I do what I can, but 8 to 3, nah, I haven't had an 8 to 3 since I left casual. I'm just gonna be honest, and I left casual in 2013. So
Wow.
Oh, it's definitely not 8 to 3. Me and Ellen are playing that now, and we're off. So
See,
Yes.
it's definitely not an 8 to 3 profession. Grading papers, writing lesson plans. And I think every teacher wants to do what's best for their students. If not, you're in the wrong profession. Like, if you don't like kids, you should not be a teacher. And we know there's some teachers out here that don't like kids that are teaching. But yeah, it's definitely not 8 to 3. I remember plenty of nights I called Ellen, like, girl, how can I do this better for my kids? How can I, reward this better? How can I teach this better? They're trying to do what's best for our kids so that they can learn, not only, in the classroom, but also outside the classroom. They deal with more stuff. They do way more stuff outside the classroom than they do in the classroom. So we try to do what's best for our kids.
That's true.
Yeah.
Making me proud, girl.
And just pick up Latanya and Daniqua, it's definitely not 8 to 3, especially when you think you're going home and your kids, when you say, like, Miss Dawson, can you come to my football game? Are you coming to my basketball game?
That's true.
And what we do?
Come,
Show
we
up.
go. We go.
We show up.
Be like, hey, girl, you staying today
That
too?
student, you know, boo. Yeah. And then the next day, they're like, thank you so much for coming to my game.
That's true.
Yeah.
So it's not 8 to 3.
I definitely
not work, so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the whole group. It's not 8 to 3. It's not 8 to 6. It's not 8 to 12. I mean, again, like Tanya said, sometimes it's around the clock. I've gotten emails and class dojo messages from parents at 2:15 in the morning. I wake up, okay. But it's valid information. It's valid things they need to tell you about their students. So you respond. Sometimes you're getting calls. Is the bus late this morning? Well, I haven't got to school, but let me call and find out if the bus is late.
Right.
So sometimes we're the intermediate person, for the parent in the school sometimes. But again, it's not 8 to 3 because we're lesson planning, we're writing IEPs, we're doing all kinds of professional developments that we have to get done. Some things that we have to learn on our own time, new programs that we have to learn. Some of the stuff is not even taught to us during our, hour of planning period. We have to do some of these things on our own to learn these materials to bring to our students. And this is all of our time, and it's not paid.
Not at all.
That stuff that we do extra is not paid. We don't get paid for that. We don't get paid for planning during the summer when we're, trying to get things ready for the school, this upcoming school year. We're not getting paid for that. We're not getting paid to try new ideas and new thoughts and, run new programs. We're not getting paid for that. That's that love of the teacher that we have for our students.
Exactly.
And I just want to say, oftentimes we show up for the children. We show up for our students. There could be death. The grandmother died. Somebody in the family died. There could be sickness. We show up. And not just, is it not 8 to 3, but it's not Monday through Friday either. It's weekends. It's holidays. We're constantly getting called and pulled. And I just, I've seen every one of you at games, dances. We show up for the children. They know that we're going to show up for them, and I think about sometimes at the games, their parents aren't there, but we're there cheering them on, supporting them. And it makes a difference. And let me say this, you can always tell the teachers that have relationship with students. You can always tell, those teachers that have relationships with students because the respect is a little bit more than others. And not to say that we don't have students that don't disrespect us. I'm not saying that at all. We got some for that, But Tyrone, you have anything to add?
No, I'm glad I didn't go in the teaching profession. Y'all sound like my job when I work for the town. That's how I am. It's 24/7, 365.
Yeah,
you off, but you never off. You know what I mean? It's one of them crazy things. But I would say that, just the scheduling and the I think at times one of the biggest things, and probably ahead of myself, that I see in the school system is teachers who don't really care about the students. They're just there for a paycheck. And I think the money has been a problem because you losing teachers, that great teachers, possibly because of the way you pay at the school system. So I think that's a big problem. I think you really get people passionate about their students, because that's your number one goal, be passionate about the student. If you get teachers that's passionate about the students, you will see a change in the culture at school. But I'm sure we're going to get in that soon. So I'm going digress.
Okay. I guess we're going to get into a little bit more heavier questions. The next question is, what is the biggest problem that you see in the school system? The biggest problem you see in the school system?
Consistency. And that comes from not just educators, but everybody, because we're all of us that's on this podcast right now are in the same county school system. Some of us are at different schools, some of us teach different subjects, but the consistency as in if a kid moved from one middle school to another middle school within the same county, it shouldn't be a huge difference. Culture wise, it may be because of the area that you live in, the people that you're surrounded by. But when it comes to academics and curriculum, it should not be that big of a gap between the schools. So when I look at it and I see students, when I come from one school to another school, and I'm like, you get this school, they may receive the funds, they may receive things that they really need. And then you get to another school and you expect to get the same thing because boom, I got it here, but then you don't get it. So to me, all students are important. Not saying that our county is saying that all kids aren't important, but when it comes to financing things for our students, some schools are really lacking. They're really lacking in what we need for our students. I'm a stickler. Everybody. We have iPads. Everybody has iPads. Okay, that's great. But some students need pencil and paper. Some students need a workbook. Okay, and the biggest problem that I see is that we're just not consistent across the board. You have one group, for example, I'm just going to say, you have one group of sixth graders working on this program. You have another group of sixth graders in another school, they're using this program. No, we all should be using the same thing if we expect them to get, because how can you really say that kids are growing in a particular area when they're not being exposed to the same material?
Right.
Yeah, teacher's going to teach it different because the teacher's not me. The teacher's not Miss Dawson, not Miss Sutton, not Miss Brown. The teacher is not us. So it's going to be delivered a little different, but it should be the same material. So they should be able to leave Miss Dawson's class and go to Miss Sutton's class if they're both teaching 8th grade math and be receiving the same instruction. Maybe delivered a little different, but should be receiving the same instruction.
Yeah. That's good.
I'm in agreement 100% with the consistency. And along with consistency, I think there is lack of consequences. Students, teachers, everybody, there's a lack of consequences for what is not going on that is correct, and the consequences aren't delivered in the same manner for each student. There should be some, again, that we're consistent. That's right. And it goes back to that consistency piece. I think there needs to be consistent consequences for consistent behaviors, but sometimes we got parents that can come in and call and say, well, my baby's not going to get this or do that. And the consequences change. Students know this too. They know that if they go home and tell their mom or dad that this is going on and they can say something to them, then they're not going to get the consequence when they come back. And that's a big problem because you can see students as early as elementary cussing at teachers. And there's not a consistent consequence with this, and I'm not saying that suspension is the best thing. No, I don't think that.
No.
Ever, there should be some consequences behind their actions.
That's good.
Okay.
And some things we should not just accept as educators. We should not have turned the blind eye to a lot of things because of the fact, it's, the pandemic came and, it's, a lot of people say, oh, it's the kids' mental health. Well, if the kids' mental health, then why don't we have more social workers in the school? I mean, counselors. Why don't we have more counselors in the school? Why don't we have more, we've implemented social emotional learning. Okay. But who's truly been trained on social emotional learning? Now, as for me, I do have a psychology degree, but everybody does not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yes, what does it look? What does social emotional learning look like for me? What does it look like for the next teacher? Is it across the board looking very similar? What is it that our kids at our particular school really need? What are we seeing? And as Miss said, it's disrespect. It's a lot of disrespect. It's a lot of inappropriate language. And when I say inappropriate language, I mean cursing, profanity. Now, for some students, that is not inappropriate language because that language is allowed to be used at home. Okay. So then you have to look at all of that. What's acceptable. Okay. Some things are allowed at home that might not be acceptable at school. For instance, you can walk around with your shirt off at home. You can't walk around with your shirt off at school. So we need to put stuff in place for those students who say, well, we do this at home. Well, my mama don't say anything, or mama and daddy don't say anything. Now, sometimes they lying, but sometimes they're not. And it is acceptable at home, or not so much acceptable, but the parents are not going to be so upset if a teacher comes and say, oh, my kid cursed. Well, did they curse you out? Well, no, but they were cursing. Oh, well, then, okay. No, it's not okay. We have to teach our children other means of communicating with their peers, with adults. But again, it's not just a teacher thing, it's a community thing.
Right.
For me, I currently just did my grad project on the discipline gap. So we talk all about the education gap, but we don't really talk about how the discipline gap affects our African American students. Doing a big study, it was about, I think at a school, it was 78% of African Americans got suspended more than I think 12% of the other kids for the same problem. And so that's a big problem that many schools faces. Also, for me, it's my first year teaching. I didn't really have like a support system, really. So for me, it was lack of support from not only the administration but also for parents.
I would say, with it being going on my second year, I would say disciplinary. That was disciplinary was a issue, and what I felt like what should have happened to them, administrator felt otherwise. So that's how I feel about that.
Okay.
And I think what has happened in this culture in this generation is we've become we not we as educators, but a lot of times we're pacifying students, we're pacifying parents, we're pacifying everybody, but we're not getting to the root of it, and it's not being dealt with. And so when you pacify the student, they're like, okay, well, I did it this time, I can do it again. When you pacify the parents, they're like, oh well, I'm not gonna, you're not gonna do this to my student, and we're gonna move them from this school to that school, and then they come right back to the same school. So
Right.
that's where the problem is right there. We're so busy trying to make everybody happy, but we're not dealing with the problem. You can't make everybody happy, but you still have to be consistent and fair with the delivery of what you're going to do.
Okay. So what I've heard is consistency, behavior problems, and I didn't hear you say this word, but it goes back to accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel for me, that's what I wrote. Accountability. We're not teaching our students accountability. As teachers, accountability. We're falling short in accountability all across the board. But the consistency, the accountability, and the behavior problems. That is some of the biggest problems that we just said that we see. Now, I want to kind of ask you to make it more specific with our students. Let's talk about our African American students. The biggest problem with our African American students, and I know some of them are going to be the same thing, but if we want to go into a little bit more depth with that.
Can I answer that? Because
Yeah.
I got one that I think you can. It's an umbrella, and there's a lot of stuff that's up under this umbrella, but it's a lack of cultural understanding. I think that's our biggest problem with our African American students. We just do stuff different. It's not saying it's better, not saying that it's right, but us as African American, we have a different culture. And so some stuff that we do and say to non-black teachers may seem strange, but when we hear it we accept it because we know the culture, we understand our culture. So it's like, even though I don't really like it that much, but I can deal with it, calling somebody bruh. It may be somebody like, nah, bruh, because I do it, because I got it from them. But I understand it. But some teachers may seem to think that's disrespectful, or we in general, we can be loud in different places. We can talk different because it's just what we grew up around. And so some stuff I think is really a cultural difference. So if you don't understand the culture of somebody, it is very hard to understand them. And so you will try to use your cultural experience on somebody that has a different culture, and it's not going to work out. I see that as a problem because I see that as a problem in the world. I think we have so many racial issues because nobody takes the time to understand somebody else's culture and how they do things. So that's my answer for that.
Let me say this really quickly because that's a pet peeve of mine. And I do not.
What's that, sis?
Don't call me bro. Whatever. But also it's for the teacher to teach the student what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. In the beginning of the year, I think one student in one of my classes was like, yo, bro. I was like, look, I'm not bro. I'm your teacher. I'm an adult and I deserve respect. We're going to put a title to my name,
Right.
Different things. And we have to teach our students the way you talk to your friends is not the way you talk to adults. And it's been said before, some of them don't get that teaching at the home, but it's our job as teachers to teach them that. I remember last week sitting in the library and there was a male student and he was talking to someone in my presence, but he was using profanity. And I said, no, sir, you're not going to use profanity in my presence. And I corrected him. It wasn't hollering at him. It was just letting him know I'm an adult and you're going to show me respect because I work here. It wasn't degrading him. And the next time when he said a little bad word, he caught himself because he realized that I was in his presence. And I think it's just, again, it goes back to establishing relationships because now there are some teachers that could provoke students. We have seen that. They could make them want to knock them out by the way they talk to them. But it's a way you could talk to a student and correct them and let them know, look, no, we're not having that. We're going to talk a certain way. You're going to address me a certain way. And I don't mind them using that with their friends, but not to me. Anybody else want to talk about the slang or being addressed a certain way?
I'm not going to hit on that part, but I am going to hit on.
Wait a minute. I think Tanya was trying to say something, but she's on mute. No. I don't know what
You're
happened.
muted.
You're mute.
Let me see if I can fix that.
Still can't hear you. Well, go ahead, Davita, and maybe we'll figure out.
Okay, so not talking about what you just talked about, but also I think we need more male teachers in the classroom as well. Just sometimes having a male presence makes a difference in the atmosphere of the schools. I think that sometimes, and this is something that my nephew said a few years ago, my youngest nephew, he said that he hadn't had an African-American teacher until he reached the 7th grade. And I was kind of stunned. And then I had to go back and I had to think and I had to look at that. So there are a lot of times that students don't see people who look like them in the classroom. So sometimes they cannot relate to who they're, again, you said it a while ago, Tyrone, that they don't, with the cultural understanding, because they don't have that same background. Some teachers do understand and some teachers do have empathy, but a lot of times they don't understand and they haven't seen, so when a student hasn't seen somebody that looks like them, they don't relate to them sometimes. And I understand that, and when my nephew said that, it kind of made me stop and think. I was like, wow, from kindergarten through the 7th grade, you haven't had a teacher that looked like you. And that was an aha moment. I was like, wow, that's big. That's profound. But I think we are not in those places, and sometimes students don't see that, and they feel like they can either get over or they can, cut up in the classes or do whatever they want to do. And sometimes that makes a big difference.
I think I think one of the biggest problems I see with our African American students when they say I don't care, that burns me up. Or oh, I got a 60, so I'm passing, and I have to reassure them, y'all. When I was in school, a passing grade was a 70. Y'all selling like they like this, and they okay with that, and it bothers me so bad. Like, no, that's not okay. And I'm like, well, why do you care? I don't care. I hate that term. I don't care. I can't. That's not allowed in my class.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I see sometimes too is when you said that, that made me think that they're afraid to shine and afraid to excel because they don't want their friends to know that they're smart. And sometimes they undersell themselves and underperform because they don't want to be considered the nerd of the class when they can do the work. And I've had students, and I tell them, I know you can do this work, so we're going to sit down, we're going to get this work done. And they are afraid to let their light shine. They're afraid, they're dimming themselves down to appease the crowd and appease their friends and appease, who's around them, so they won't be considered the smart kid or the nerd. When in all actuality, they need to go ahead and excel and exceed so that they can get the scholarships that they need. That these are the things that they need in life.
Wow. And some of them will choose behavior. They choose to act out because they're around their friends versus when still doing their work. Like, for example, when me and Danique will be bouncing kids to each other's room to get ready for their friends, and we go back to like, well, this person is actually smart. And we be like, okay, let's try it another day. And then turn to find out their peers is the reason why they won't exceed. Because they don't want, just because they don't want their friends to think they are nerd or smart, they choose to hang with the crowd. I'm sorry.
And not only are they dimming like you good, not only are they dimming like there's sometimes teachers are dimming their light as well. They never had a teacher that actually pushed them or believe in them. Like I had a kid who I had to switch my honors class, so she was way above the class they put her in. And sometimes you have to have that teacher that push you, and sometimes our kids haven't had that yet. They haven't had a person that say, okay, you can do this, keep doing it, do better, you know what to do. Now sometimes it takes us, to see the light in our students and push them.
And I agree with that wholeheartedly because I was one of those students. I know my sister just went and smiled, but I was one of those students in the third grade. I had a bad experience with a third grade teacher. And, she was telling me what I wasn't going to do and what I wasn't going to be and what I couldn't achieve. And in all actuality, I was probably far above what the class was expecting because we had just moved from Germany back stateside. And so I knew a lot of the stuff that they were doing. So I was just cutting up. And I was just cutting up because, I was bored. And sometimes we have those students who cut up because they are bored. They are above what we're trying to teach them. And so we have to find out other means to help that student to not be bored, but also to continue to learn. And so my third grade year was a rough year. I got in trouble every day for my third grade year. Now, fourth grade, different teacher, different atmosphere. My teacher sat down with my parents and they had a conversation what I was going to do, what I was expected to do. My fourth grade teacher made me take a dictionary outside every day on recess, and I had to write from the dictionary. She pushed me. She made me work. And I appreciate her now because I see what she was doing. She knew my potential and she saw what I could do, and she didn't let me slide. And that's what we have to do with our students. We can't let them slide. But a lot of teachers are just like, oh, well, they keep getting in trouble. But we got to find out what the root of the problem is.
Yeah.
I agree with that because I was that student. I was that one. I would get in trouble every day for talking because I would be the first one through with my work. Mm-hmm. And so because it was easy, because I had a lot of my dad made me study for 2 hours every day from 3. We got home at 3, from 3 to 5. I had to study. So I was smart and I knew a lot of stuff. So I got bored. So I acted out to get attention. I was known as the class clown, had straight A's, and using kind of couldn't make the honor roll because of that. But I was one of them students, so it's like how easy or how do you go about picking that student out? Because most of the time we just so happened. My dad was in the military, and at the school we was at, the teachers could see that. But if you think about the frustrations that you have as a teacher, what you go through day to day, personally and with students, how do you pick that student out that's not just acting out, and they acting out because they're bored or what they're learning is not interested enough for them to do it, but they smart. How do we deal with that kind of student? That's a question for y'all to answer. I throw curveballs when I do this.
We're still asking if you can hear us. We still can't hear you.
Oh, we can't hear you, Tony. You might have to go out. Might have to go out and come back in. Okay.
Repeat the question again, Tyler.
The question is, how do you pick out, like me, like I was talking about me, I was a student I got in trouble a lot for talking, but it was because I was smart and I knew how to do my work. It was easy and I would get through way faster than everybody else. So then I was bored, so I just acted up. So what do you do with the student? And how do you pick out the student that's like that versus they just got behavior problems? Because mine was not behavior problems. I was bored.
I think it goes back to what I said in the beginning. You have to know your students. You have to study them. And I had pulled a student aside, and he's going to the 9th grade. I said, "What's wrong with you?" About every 2 weeks, I have to tell him, "You are a leader, not a father." And he's like, "Miss Austin, I know." He's like, "I know," and it burns me up. But and then it took my mentor to ask him, like, "Why you act the way you do? You smart. I hear all good things about you." He said, "Because I'm bored." So after he gets in my work, I send him to the another math class because she has AIG. She's teaching math 1, like the math that he's going to be introduced to in 9th grade. So once he get on my work, I send him over there.
All right.
And then the one that's behavior, if you're not going to do what I asked you to do, you getting bounced. So I can fucking bounce.
I just love the way you put that.
Later, so Ms. also can actually focus on students that want to learn, that needs my attention.
That's good.
And I think that's the difference with the elementary and the middle school. We sometimes have to deal more with it in class than the middle and the high school levels. But again, it's going back to knowing your students, and having that communication with the parents as well. Like I said, I was Tyrone. We were on the same page. I was that student that I was talking. I was getting in trouble, not because I didn't know the work. I was a straight A student. I mean, when I went to class, because there was a time where I didn't even go to class. But we ain't even gonna talk about that right now. But what I'm saying is, I was bored, and I knew the work. I could get the work done. I didn't have to bring home books to study.
Right.
I could look at, if I had a test on Tuesday, I could get in the classroom 10 minutes before class started, look at the stuff, and I was able to ace that test. I mean, I didn't study. I didn't do a lot of studying when I was in school, which my sister just hated me for that. She was like, "You don't never study." No, I ain't got to study. But I knew the material. Once I looked at it for a couple minutes, I got it. So I was bored. And so I had teachers, who were pushing me, and they knew this. And I guess, and sometimes when you get another student, you may need to refer back to the teacher previously and say, "Hey, what worked best for you?" And sometimes we have to go use other resources. And that's what some of my teachers did. They did get other resources to help. And again, I'm going to talk about my nephew, too. We had to have a meeting about him one time because he was bored in class. And I had to go in there and I wrote a whole behavior plan for him. If he does this, then this is going to happen. This is a consequence to this. And this is what we're going to do, because he was bored. But then, too, they gave him too many responsibilities. Sometimes for him, they made him an adult before his time. And we have to keep children in children's places. He was being an adult in the school, and that wasn't his place. And so he couldn't understand when somebody took that power back from him, how he was not still in that role again. So we had to go back through all of that, and we had to go in there and sit down and be like, "Look, this is why we can't have this. This is why you can't do this." But again, it's all about knowing your students. You have to have that relationship with your students and their families.
That's fair.
Go ahead.
Go, 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 go. No, you go first. Whew. Um, I was just thinking so much from my sister's experience to my own child's experiences to my personal experiences as teaching. Of one thing that I will have to say is so often as I've seen teachers not want to do differentiation instruction. Sometimes we have to do different assignments for different students,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not one size fits all approach. And a lot of teachers like to do that one size fits all approach, and it'll never work. Um, just like a lot of our young boys, they can't sit down all day in a classroom. We can't expect students to come to our classroom and not say anything and just copy notes and write notes and just sit down. Those days are long gone. But I think as teachers, we do have to provide different instruction. And again, it goes back to knowing your students. I had an experience, and this was an experience that really woke me up. I had a student that would never talk. So one day after class, I asked him what the problem was because he always received, did his work correctly. And it was simple. He had anxiety speaking in front of people. He was scared to talk in front of people. So I made it where he didn't have to talk him. There's no need to create this anxiety for him to get super nervous, for him just, so whenever it was time for him to answer, he would write it on a sticky note or an index card. And it was something just that simple of speaking with the student. I like to think back to my own child because when I say we have had the most experiences with all my boys, they were just different. But that middle child, bless his heart,
Like his aunt.
that middle child. And the thing about it is, my youngest son is just like my sister. I don't know why I got that child. I think I think my mama prayed. She was like, and I told my mama this. My mama used to pray all the time. She was like, I hope your children act just like you. But why did I get the child that was supposed to act like the video? And my middle son acts just like my sister. It's crazy. My parents were at that schoolhouse a lot for the Vita. I was at that schoolhouse a lot. But to the point where when people will call me, I'll be like, oh, what is it now? That kind of thing. And I remember when we went out, because I was frustrated. I was like, look, y'all ain't gonna keep suspending my child. Y'all ain't gonna keep calling me for just stupid reasons. And I'm telling you, one day, I have a Purity notebook. One day I got called because he didn't close the milk carton right. He didn't close the milk carton. He got wrote up for not closing the milk carton. And that was when I had it. I was like, look, this ain't gonna work right here. And it was because he was bored. He was simply bored. And this is the thing. And my kids hate me for it. In the summertime, I prepared them for the next school year. So they already knew the information. So second grade, he already knew how to multiply. So he already knew how to do that. So he was literally bored. And it was just, and I told them they would have to provide him with different assignments to let him do more things. And also, he doesn't like he doesn't work well with people. He likes to do things by himself. So when you put him in a group, that is just not going to work well.
What's up, world? It's your boy Tyrone Morgan, and I'm coming to you again at the end of part one of the Soul of a Teacher. This podcast was really basically talking about all the duties that the teachers have. I think we the only thing teachers go there to teach, but they have a lot bigger job. And I want to shout out praises to them. I want to thank them for everything that they do. And I think you're very much underpaid. But with that being said, I would like for us to this year as parents, even as teachers, students, staff, whatever you are associated with the school, even if you're, I think I said parent, even if you're a parent, I want you to pray. I want you to pray and ask God that this year. Matter of fact, we're going to pray. Lord, thank you for this day. Lord, I'd like to wish blessings upon all the students, the staff, the parents, and everybody that's involved with anything that's going on in school this year. I pray that this year will be a much better year, and I pray that we all learn to work together for the greater good so that everybody can accomplish the task that's ahead. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. With nothing else left to say, we'll see you next week for part 2 of The Soul of a Teacher. Peace out.